All right. So within the book 47, we see that this is taking place on the Corinthian plantation. And within chapter 3, we begin to see 47 working out in the cotton fields. It's really crucial that we have a clear understanding of cotton, why cotton was such a dominating presence within the text, and why it was such a dominating presence within slavery in general. So let's talk about the rise of cotton, America's economic engine. When we think of an engine is the thing that drives something within your parents' vehicle. Uh, there's an engine inside that drives it, that makes it go, all those things. So let's talk about it. This presentation explores how cotton became the backbone of early American capitalism, transforming the nation's economy while deepening the institution of slavery. We'll examine the technological and economic and human factors that made cotton king in the 19th century and assess its lasting impact on American society. Now, again, parents, caregivers, this is a walkthrough for you guys to be able to have the conversation with our young people about cotton and its role in the enslavement of our ancestors. So pay attention, but this is for you to be able to have a guided conversation with your young people. All right. How did cotton become so important? Cotton emerged as a critical commodity, the chief thing, the big thing during the Industrial Revolution. Industrial Revolution was a period in time where more machines and technology were introduced into the American way of life that helped Americans, people, do hard work. Okay? The crop, cotton, economic significance transformed the way the South became a major player in the global economy. It became so important because of how much money people were able to make off of it. Okay, here's some numbers. Cotton's economic impact, how big it was, how important it was. Cotton was 75% of the U.S. export. By 1840, cotton constituted approximately three quarters of all American export, making it the nation's most valuable commodity. 600 million annual production value. In 1860, the value of Southern cotton exceeded the combined value of all other American agriculture exports. This is a number: 1.8 million enslaved people. Cotton's profitability, the ability for people to make money off of cotton, drove the growth of slavery. So the enslaved population in cotton growing states nearly doubled between 1830 and 1860. Cotton became known as King Cotton for its economic dominance and political influence as Southern planters leveraged their economic future to protect slavery and expand westward. It was about money. So the more money that they made off of cotton, the more slaves they needed. The Cotton Revolution and American capitalism. There's a number of things that I'm going to highlight, but there's four things: financial infrastructure, industrial development, manufacturing boom, global trade networks. I'm going to read one of them. That's going to be the financial infrastructure. Cotton profits capitalize banks and financial institutions, creating sophisticated, excuse me, credit systems that funded further economic expansion. So a lot of your modern banks, a lot of your insurance companies today got their start, their beginning from the cotton industry. This slide is the slide that I think speaks volumes, particularly to our young people. It really paints a picture of what our ancestors endured on the plantation. The human costs, cotton harvesting. Cotton picking was brutally difficult work performed primarily by enslaved people. Our ancestors endured 10 to 14-hour workdays in scorching hot humidity, cold. The weather didn't matter. The requirements to pick 150 to 200 pounds daily, no matter your size, no matter your gender. You can be girl, boy, male, woman, small, big, tall, round, square. Your requirement was to pick 150 to 200 pounds daily. And if you didn't, you were harshly punished. Constant stooping and reaching that caused chronic pain, cuts and wounds from the sharp cotton bolls and plant parts, endless seasonal cycles with no reprieve. It can be raining, it can be stormy, it can be hot, cold. It did not matter. The psychological and social impacts of the cotton system. Family separation. Cotton's booms made it simple so, or made it easier for the slave masters to sell and to tear apart families. The more cotton that was grown, the more people was needed to harvest that cotton. So if your plantation had too many slaves, other plantations would come see a slave master and buy you. Surveillance, excuse me, and control. Cotton plantations developed elaborate systems of surveillance and discipline, including overseers, drivers, rigid scheduling. Enslaved people were forced to work from can't see to can't see. That's what they meant by from dawn until dusk. Can't see to can't see. Resistance and resilience. Despite brutal conditions, enslaved people developed strategies of resistance, from working slowdowns to escape attempts. Communities maintained cultural practices, the singing, religious beliefs, and families' connections as a way of surviving psychologically in this harsh reality. Cotton's role in territorial expansion, meaning Cotton's role on the expansion of how much land that ultimately the Europeans would take from the indigenous people. And I'm just going to give you a couple of dates and a couple of brief overviews. You can spend time looking at this slide if you choose, but I just want to pinpoint some big things. The Louisiana Purchase opens vast territories for potential cotton cultivation, doubling the size of the United States. This is 1803. Remember, the Louisiana Purchase was Europeans attempting to purchase a land that people already owned. But I'm going to skip down to this one particular right here that I think is really big. 1850 to 1854, the 1850 compromise between Kansas and Nebraska Act escalates, meaning this is another opportunity for them to go to war to determine who was going to have this land. Ultimately, this land that they were going to use as a way of expanding the slave trade. It wasn't about trying to build a land for people to have their own houses and to live the quote unquote American dream. It was a way for them to bring more of our ancestors over to ultimately make more money. The legacy of King Cotton. Economic consequences. It established patterns of agricultural export dependence, created regional economic disparities that persisted after the Civil War, contributed to the South's slow industrialization compared to the North. The social and political impact. deepen racial hierarchies that outlasted slavery itself. So those racial hierarchies, and when you think of a hierarchy, you think of a triangle, right? On the bottom there's somebody, and you go up. As you go up, it gets smaller. But these hierarchies, you have people on the bottom. And currently, the people who are in the bottom in our lives are the poor working class people who are just like me and probably your parents. People who work and who are dependent upon a system for them to go into a job to make money. And then you have people at the very top who don't do a whole lot, but they're able to reap the benefits of the people on the bottom. Okay, this is the last slide, but I want to highlight the modern relevance because, again, I want you to understand that it wasn't just picking cotton because cotton was there. Cotton was grown, it was grew, it was harvested intentionally because of the amount of money that it made. So it wasn't just simply that they went and got slaves, kidnapped our people, brought them across through the Middle Passage just because they wanted to bring us over and have us do nothing. They needed someone to grow and maintain and sustain their cotton crops. So they didn't care about your age, your size, your gender, the weather, whether you had shoes, pants, gloves, nothing. Remember what we read in 47 where he said that he had a long burlap, that would be the itchy material shirt that was too big, no pants, no underwear, no shoes, and was out there on the plantation picking cotton. This is a brief overview of the cotton and industry and the significance of the cotton the within slavery. It wasn't the only crop that was used and that we, our people, would harvest. But it has a huge legacy and impact. Just a brief overview, family. I hope you take this to just listen for a moment and to do some research about the importance of cotton on slavery. Till next time, this is Elgin Bailey. Remember, read, rise, resist.